September has just begun with a shakeup in Northeast Asian dynamics. It was sparked off by China's ceremony to commemorate its victory in World War II. China has risen as a power rivaling the U.S., and its large-scale event garnered attention from the U.S. and other Western nations. What exactly is China's victory ceremony that has created a huge stir in the Northeast Asian region? It is a ceremony to commemorate China's victory in the Second World War with Japanese declaration of defeat in September 3rd. It has been a national holiday for China since 2014. It involved the first military parade after Xi Jinping took office, which became the highlight of the ceremony. About 12,000 Chinese troops, 500 pieces of military equipment, and 200 aircraft were put on display. The Xi administration's intent to display its military might was evident in the military parade of massive scale. The Xi administration's intent to display its military might was evident in the military parade of massive scale.
今天是一个值得世界人民永远纪念的日子。70年前的今天，中国人民经过长达14年艰苦卓绝的斗争，取得了中国人民抗日战争的伟大胜利，宣告了世界反法西斯战争的完全胜利。和平的阳光再次普照大地。
Aside from the military parade, the ceremony was attended by leaders from around the world. About 30 state leaders, including President Park Geun-hye and Russian President Vladimir Putin, joined the event, together with 10 representatives from international organizations, including UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, as well as about 20 high-ranking government officials, including Max Baucus, U.S. Ambassador to China. This demonstrated China's raised international status to the rest of the world. President Park's visit to China has much more significant meaning. It symbolizes Korea's effort to boost ties with China regardless of the Korea-US alliance. President Park's visit to China has been viewed as a great success. However, the real diplomatic challenge begins now. Trilateral relations among Korea, China, and Japan are going to take a new turn, and at the same time, Seoul needs to build on its alliance with Washington under a new strategy. Upfront discusses the changed dynamics of Northeast Asian diplomacy since President Park's attendance of China's victory ceremony.
Hello and welcome to Upfront. I'm Song Se-ryan. President Park Geun-hye's term has passed the midpoint, and she has begun her diplomatic schedule for the second half with a visit to China. This is to attend China's celebration of the 70th anniversary of the victory in World War II. Opinions have been varied over President Park's visit to China. On today's Upfront, we discuss the controversies surrounding the president's participating in China's victory ceremony and remaining challenges for Korea as it seeks a leading role in Northeast Asian diplomacy. For in-depth discussion on today's topic, we're joined by four great guests. First, we're joined by Choi Kang, Vice President of Asan Institute for Policy Studies.
Thank you.
Tai-hwan, Director of the Center for China Studies at Sejong Institute.
Thank you.
Eun Mee, Dean of Graduate School of International Studies at Ewha Women's University.
Hello.
And lastly, Hwee-rhak, Dean of Graduate School of Politics and Leadership at Kookmin University.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'll turn to you, Dr. Che, first. Now, this is not the first time that China had this kind of celebration. Military parades, they have it in their national day. But it seems like this has caused a great stir in this region. People have been uproar about China's display of military power, and they have invited so many different guests from around the world. Why such a big deal?
First of all, I think it's been so much exaggerated. It seems to me that there's a trend in the region, for example, rising China, normalizing Japan, rebalancing the US, backsliding North Korea. So it is happening against those backdrops. But actually, this is 70th anniversary of achieving the victory in World War II. So they have to celebrate in one way or another. And also, President Xi Jinping has entered into his third year in term. So actually, he has to show the Chinese public about his leadership, the Chinese role in the region as one of the key players in the region. So it seems to me that not really directed toward the outside the world. My take on this is more internally oriented moves to boost up domestic morale, and we should remain united together. And then we have to march together toward, like, for example, the ultimate goal is egalitarian society in the region. So that's a Chinese motive. So I don't think it's really kind of breakthrough or turning point of Chinese foreign policy at all. This trend has been with us for the past, I think, at least 15 years. So it maybe China feels more confident about in its capability. And also it shows clear determination and a willingness to be the major players in international politics.
I see. Professor Kim, I don't know if you agree with that sentiment, but regardless of that, there is a controversy within Korea as well, whether President Park Geun-hye's visit was wise. And I think that comes from this concern that, well, there's this U.S. relationship that Korea has a tradition, very strong. And then China seems to be displaying this mighty power, military power. So do you think that there is a controversy, a legitimate controversy, or do you think that it's also exaggerated?
I think slightly exaggerated, but I have to say that President Park's visit to China was warmly greeted by both parties, and I was quite pleasantly surprised by that. Even Moon Jae-in also said this is a good time for the visit, and I think this is because it follows on after the confrontation between North Korea and South Korea, that President Park now enjoys a very high popularity among the South Koreans. Hence, whatever she does, I think she's getting a good, favorable view. If she was going on after a coattail of a very different relationship with North Korea, I think she may have hesitated in going. And also the mood for her visit to China may have been more scrutinized than in the past. So I think overall, the response from the public as well as the media and political parties have been in general favorable. I do think the media sometimes wants to exaggerate the power play. Are we coming too close to China vis-a-vis the U.S.? But I hope we're past that we're seeing that Korea has a very strong military and a strategic alliance with the United States, and it's simply, and very importantly, addressing the growing economic and other powers of China and trying to rebalance that. It's not, I don't think it's a zero-sum game that some of the media wants to highlight.
Right, I think we have to come back to the point that we usually talk about this equal distance diplomacy, the kind of stuck between the China and U.S., but I think there are ways, and we have to overcome that dynamics, but we'll have to come back to that. Director Lee,
yes.
I think that China has, regardless of whether it was exaggerated or not, they put in tremendous efforts in holding this event. I saw the footage of that, and it's the national effort to do it. Is there any particular purpose in making such a big event?
Well, it's actually the spirit of this ceremony. They so-called, they put it in 4 terms. Is first of all, they say they emphasized as peace first, and also people, and I don't remember the whole terms, but anyway, even though it is they wanted to demonstrate their growing power, especially the military power through the military parade, but still they want to emphasize, instead of aggressive impression which could be given to the other international communities. So to avoid that kind of image, they emphasized the peace. Also, they wanted to show as a big power, a growing, a rising power, they wanted to get together. They wanted to send a message to the whole country in the world. Just that China does not want to be aggressive power. They want to be a legitimate power and to be a leader in this region.
Professor Park, as Director Lee was mentioning, the peace message was there, but it's a little bit odd to look at this mighty display of military power and talk about peace. So there is we understand the narrative, but I think there are a lot of people who are suspicious of that message itself. I guess I'm kind of specifically talking about the Western leaders who were invited. The President Xi Jinping invited about 50 heads of states, but only a handful showed up. And U.S. and none of the Western powers showed up. And in fact, in the Free Democratic front, probably the Korea is the only one who showed up, even at the military parade. Do you see that there's a discrepancy in what the message put out by China and how it was received by the rest of the world?
I think that President Xi made some kind of success in domestic issues, but I think that internationally, I don't think that Xi Jinping made some success. That means that, as you said, they showed military might to the world and say a peace without any visions or plan for the future as a second economy in the world. So how could all the people believe in China? So I think that many kind of Western kind of leaders or peoples may think that China still is a big but still not a kind of leading country in the world. They did not demonstrate any visions, values, or plans for the actual peace. And as you pointed out, that the problem of South Korea is that South Korea was the only U.S. ally which participated in that ceremony. It is not that kind of big deal, but it could be a beginning or a starting point of a big deal. That means if you see the participants of the ceremony, they are mainly from the nations of the continent. And the U.S. side is mainly maritime powers. So there could be some kind of a divide between continental power and maritime power. And we may be considered by the U.S. and Japan that we decided to be on the continental power side. So we may not have the intention, we may want to be a balancer, but that kind of impression by the U.S. and Japan may make them suspicious of us, and it could undermine our alliance with the U.S. and cooperation with Japan, I think.
I see. On that point, we prepared a short video footage of the highlights of the victory ceremony held in China. And I'd like to touch upon the result of the Korean-China summit right after this. Take a look at the footage before we continue. Dr. Choi, China has put in a lot of effort to make it a big event, but also they put in a lot of effort to invite South Korea into this event. What does China get out of having China highly profiled in that event?
Of course, actually, China wants to be the major player in constructing new regional order in the region. So that's why they actually put lots of efforts in bringing Korea much closer to Chinese stance on various occasions. So that's their intent. So, but actually, we have to look at what is the nature or current state of relations between U.S. and China. It's not really conflictual or confrontation at all. They are mutually interdependent. They have to work together, they know. But they like to compete who is going to be leading player. So not actually the confrontation, but the competition and cooperation. So, but in the underlying, the Chinese intent is to strengthen its base in the region. So that's why they desperately need South Korea's support and cooperation with China. But actually, I'd like to come back to your question about why there was that many the Western leaders at all. Actually, usually, whenever there's a military parade, the diplomatic corps in the capital, actually, they attend. They do not send the delegation to the place where the parade is taking place. So it's quite unusual for China to invite the foreign leaders. But anyhow, there's a diplomatic corps was there. And also, of course, President Xi Jinping is going to visit the United States late this month. So it is necessary for President Obama to come to Beijing to have a meeting with President Xi Jinping. So it is natural for them not to come. Second, actually, most Western leaders are preoccupied with the domestic issues very much nowadays. So especially in European leaders, they are preoccupied with their economy. The economy is the most important one. Third, actually, Xi Jinping had made several visits to Western countries already. So it's necessary for them to be in Beijing in person to have a meeting with Xi Jinping. Also, and the UN General Assembly, lots of head of state will come together. So anyway, naturally for them, it isn't unnecessary for them to come to the Beijing. But for South Korea, it's quite important for South Korea to come to Beijing to have a cooperation with China in solving North Korean issue and also overcoming the stalemates in our relations with other countries. For example, Japan. We have not been able to host the Trilateral Summit since 2012. So I think it's quite natural for South Korea to come to Beijing and also to make breakthrough in the stalemate of current state of regional dynamics. I think it's unlike the other Western powers. South Korea has a great interest in coming to Beijing.
Russia had a similar event. Nobody from the Western world showed up, but that was because of Ukraine.
Yeah, Ukraine crisis in Crimea. Because everybody criticized the Russia's the annexation.
Right.
Of course, they do not say annexation Crimea, and also keep supplying the weapons and involving in the Ukraine crisis. That actually prevent any country from taking.
Right. So this time it was different.
It's
That's
totally
not
different.
Totally different.
Let me add one point about
Right.
why China provided that kind of very kind of higher courtesy to visit of our president. I think we don't know the exact reason, but we assume that if they have something to get, they would provide good courtesy. Right? Because I wanted to have something from him. So I would like welcome him and provide good meals. This is a kind of natural kind of thing.
Along the line of there's no free lunch.
Yes. So that means that I think that we need to think ourselves that what kind of laws we have made by accepting the invitation. We need to think about that. As I told you before, China wanted to demonstrate to the world that South Korea is on its side, to the United States and to the Japan. We agreed to take a picture with Xi Jinping and say to the world that we may have taken Chinese side. And as you well know, there's a risk. Risk is that U.S. would think that the alliance might not be same as the past, and Japan may think that we need to fight the South Korea if we have some kind of skirmish over the Senkaku Island. So I think that the President Park didn't know that kind of risk. So I think that we need to try to mitigate the risk instead of welcoming, instead of kind of praising the courtesy of Chinese leaders.
Professor Park also opened up this question of what is the accomplishments and also the concessions we made, or intentionally or indirectly during the summit meeting. What's your take on that?
I think the risk of U.S. seeing us getting too close to China is really exaggerated. When I visit the U.S. and meet with the diplomatic corps of the U.S. And meet with opinion leaders, they understand that the relationship is much more mature and secure. you only ask a child if you love your dad or love your mom more. I think the U.S. and others recognize that Korea is now a grown-up, has its own opinions, and I think the recent dealing with North Korean aggression shows that Korea has really come of age and is now dealing with its matters on its own peninsula, on its own, with the help of others, of course, but it is really taking the owner's seat. And I hope that understanding is recognized and believed by more people rather than to exaggerate the controversy between U.S. and China with a tug of war with Korea in between. I think that's the wrong image as we move forward.
Although I have to say, I kind of suspect that sometimes we may not have get past the kindergarten playground.
The other issue that I want to say that what we have lost and what we have gained is our relationship with China, and this is very much in line with our relationship with North Korea and North Korea's relationship with China. It was very clear. The message was very clear that China is recognizing South Korea as a major player in this region, and they will walk with us rather than with North Korea on various issues. And I think that was a very strong message.
I see. And the same question to Director Lee.
Yeah, as Professor Kim said, it's very interesting analogy, but father and mother. But anyway, because G2, as a G2, China, to want to get along with the United States. Not they not want just confront against the United States, but that they also avoid that kind of confrontation. So this kind of event shows that we are not against the United States, but still we have enough power and capability to lead this region as a leader. Who's gonna be a true leader? Japan or China or some other Asian countries? Well, that is, I think, is one of the Chinese intention to invite Korea so eagerly, because as a U.S. allies, I think it's in Asia the only one country invited and invited but attend. Japan did not attend, so it is very important for China to make its own image as a true Asian leader in this region, with the partnership with Korea, even though it is not on the Chinese side, but it's U.S. side, but still they can make it. Now is a transitional period. Is in the kind of they need a new frame of international order without bringing any major military conflict between the major powers. That's a Chinese argue that their major power strategies, new type of major power relationship, something like that. I think another thing is I want to make is from the Korean point of view, we want deal with China because mainly because of for economic and the security reasons. Well, China is the #1 trading partner to Korea, so we want to continue this kind of economic relationship and deepen the relationship. But also what's more important is China is an essential, crucial country to bring the or realize the reunification of the Korean Peninsula, as well as the peace on the Korean Peninsula. So that kind of a message, which was already given to the United States, how to deal with the North Korean nuclear issues, Korean reunification issues, we have to we have to deal with China first, but the U.S.-China is too busy to deal with our problems, and so Korea is no longer a baby. So even though we are close allies in the United States, still we have to make our own position on this issue, and we need to persuade both. I mean, so the U.S., okay, in dealing with the North Korea nuclear issues, Korean Peninsula issues, you can make on your own with China. You have a good relationship with China to, just to solve the North Korean nuclear issues. Fine, go ahead. That kind of signs from the United States, which was necessary, but I think it's already done. Because through the meeting between the foreign ministers meeting between U.S.-China, U.S.-Korea, a couple of days ago of this ceremony. So our foreign minister emphasized the cooperation among the trilateral, country, among the Korea, United States, and China to deal with the North Korean nuclear issues. Okay, the message is quite clear. We do not want to, do not want to lose this opportunity.
Right. Well, why don't you comment on this trilateral issue, not China, U.S., and Korea, but China, Korea, and Japan. I think that was one of the major issues that was on the table. And to an extent that the President Park has suggested it, and the China has kind of accepted, and subsequently Japan was amenable to kind of agree on the in principle the meeting. So in that sense, there is a kind of a leadership role. Do you count that as an accomplishment?
I think that's the most important accomplishment she has made upon a trip this time, not on North Korea. Rather, there's a resumption of Trilateral Summit, because this is the last year South Korea can host the Trilateral Summit. So, for example, we have very bad relations with Japan, and also Japan has very bad relations with China. So, unless we have some kinds of breakthrough out of get out of this confrontation or dispute among ourselves, it's not possible to do anything positively. Economic integration, economic cooperation among ourselves. So I think this is very important, and also, of course, don't expect too much about Trilateral Summit, because it is more designed to promote economic and social contact among the countries in the region, not solving the security issue. So we will remain, but anyhow, we will be able to further consolidate the ground for future cooperation. So, for example, we have, I think, more than 100 projects we agreed among ourselves. I mean, Korea, Japan, and China. But none of them has been working properly. But I think we have seized the opportunity to revitalize those agreements and measures. So I think maybe this is the groundwork for future cooperation and future relations, not actually solving the immediate problem we have right now.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I think I have to add a comment or make a comment on the father-mother thing. Donald Trump said that we need to get away with the political correctness, he said. Many people believe that U.S., China does not want to be confrontational, but we all know that there could be some day when they become confrontational. He mentioned that China says that I am in charge of Northeast Asia, right? It's the Xi Jinping's message through this parade. I am the leader of this Northeast Asia means that U.S., you should not come here. You should keep away from this. That is a confrontational message. And the South Korea is that we have alliance relations with United States. No, China has alliance relations with North Korea. We cannot put two countries, China and the U.S., on the same level. We are allies. Allies means that we mobilize all our forces to protect you. But China did not support our position even once. As you know, after the worship Cheonan incident and the Yeonpyeong Island, the THAAD issues, they always opposed to our position. So I don't think that we should put the two countries on the same level. And the three countries cooperation, I think that we South Koreans may have some kind of fantasy or illusion. That means we may become the balancer. Balance between China and the US, and balancer between China and Japan. But in the theory of the power politics, to be a balancer, you need to have a power to shift the balance. And at the same time, you need to have a flexibility of positions. If you think that A side is stronger than B, you need to make an alliance with B in order to make a balance.
Right.
We need to change the positions all the time, but we have very strong antagonism with Japan. We cannot change the sides. And he said it would be the one kind of achievement through this parade kind of summit meeting that we want to have. We will have some kind of summit meeting, but we need to see whether it could happen. There is a Japanese opinion. If Japan does not agree on that, we will not have the meeting.
Probably this is a good time to bring in outside perspective. Korean Peninsula was a critical issue discussed during Korea-China summit. Before we move on to more of a North Korean issue, we're joined by a Chinese professor who is an expert on international relations. It is Professor Hwang Jin from the National University of Singapore. Let me just get to the question. China has recently held the ceremony to celebrate the victory in the World War II, and China has put in greater efforts to the event than ever before. What do you think is the intention? How can China benefit from holding such a big event?
I think the intention is threefold. The first is to show that China has adequate capability to defend peace and its national interests, especially at a time when the U.S. rebalance policy seems to have put China's security environment in a difficult situation. And secondly, as China is going through anti-corruption campaign, and also China going through a kind of economic reform, which resulted in expected slowdown in the economic development, this parade has shown the confidence and the national aspiration to move forward and realize Xi Jinping's so-called China dream. Last but not the least, of course, it also shows that China's willingness to work with the countries that are friendly to China for a common purpose. That is, in Xi Jinping's words, we all live in a community of common destiny, and therefore peace, stability, prosperity is a common goal of China and the countries around China.
Russian President Vladimir Putin had a bilateral summit with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. What do you think is the major issue in Beijing-Moscow relations? Do you think the visit of Putin has contributed to boosting strategic cooperation between the two countries?
Of course, China and Russia has shared interests in regional stability and development. President Putin's visit and his private meeting with Xi Jinping obviously reinforced the bilateral strategic partnership between China and Russia. But having said that, I do not believe China-Russia relationship or China-Russia strategic partnership is targeted any third country. And I do not believe it serves either China's interests or Russia's interests to make this relationship confrontational to any third country. I think the fundamental purpose for the bilateral relationship between China and Russia is to promote peace and prosperity.
President Park's visit to China this time has added momentum to closer Seoul-Beijing relations. But it seems the Beijing-Pyongyang relations have been less amiable than in the past. What is your outlook for future Beijing-Pyongyang relations?
Obviously, Beijing-Pyongyang relationship is not doing very well. And there's an obvious comparison is that while President Park visited Beijing and attended the ceremony and has also a very good relationship with President Xi Jinping, you can tell the two leaders have very good chemistry between them. But meanwhile, and North Korean's leader Kim Jong-un was absent at the ceremony, and his representative General Choi did not even get a meeting with President Xi Jinping. I think the fundamental issue between China and North Korea and Pyongyang is a nuclear weapon issue. I think it is China's position. I believe it is also President Xi Jinping's position to make sure that China-North Korean relationship has to be based on Pyongyang's willingness to do away with nuclear weapon system, to return to six-party talk. After all, there is a good foundation, very solid foundation between Beijing and Pyongyang. The two countries has been fighting shoulder to shoulder against invasion 60 years ago. But right now, Pyongyang's a very aggressive approach towards nuclear weapon program does not serve China's interests, and I do not believe it serves Pyongyang's interests either.
Thank you for your views. Let's talk a little bit more about North Korea. I mean, as we all know, North Korea stepped up in a major way, the tension-making right after this summit meeting with landmines and artillery attacks. But then they changed the stance very quickly. There was a swift change in their willingness to talk, and there was subsequently dialogues. And President Park, I think, confirmed in her message to China and thanking China for intervention during these skirmishes. So there is a role that China played in North Korean issues this time around. Do you think this is going to be an ongoing thing because we are kind of getting closer to China and also working together in the regional issues? What do you think?
Well, I certainly hope so. I hope this better relationship between South Korea and China will help broker a relationship with North Korea. If they can play, I would say, a supporting role for South Korea's wish to have a peaceful peninsula, have a denuclearized peninsula, if China is on board and keep pressing North Korea on those issues, I think that's a really good sign. And if we move forward on this stance, I think it's better for the whole region and the world. China, I think, especially with President Xi Jinping, has been much more favorable towards South Korea. Maybe there is something to do with the personal relationship that he has cultivated with President Park when they are both not in this premier position. Maybe that has a lot to do with Chinese concept of guanxi and so on. But I think they now see that the economic interdependence of the two countries, South Korea and China, may be greater from South Korea's perspective, but it is very important and significant, much more so than its relationship with North Korea. I think so there's a realistic perspective from China in working with South Korea. We have many South Korean companies that have set up companies in North Korea, in China. Their trade is ever growing and so on. So the economic reality of the two countries is much more aligned than in the past. So the relationship as we go forward, I think, is going to be stronger.
I see. Professor Park, on the North Korea side, they sent Choi Yong-hae. Of course, Kim Jong-un did not attend. Some people see it as a willingness to talk and have a better relationship with China, or some people see it as a kind of expression of displeasure. How do you see that?
Yeah, there could be some kind of dissatisfaction with the Chinese attitude toward South Korea from the North Korean perspective. But I think that this is a kind of one event, so it is very premature to determine the kind of real nature of the Chinese and North Korean relations. And as you asked Professor Kim, that North Korea may have agreed to have a talk on the mine explosion incident by the pressures of the China. I think that could be a part of it, but I don't think that is a good kind of explanation of that. That means that I think that North Korea may have good intention to have a good relationship with South Korea. They may be very tired of continuing this. And judging from the Kim Jong-un's comment after the agreement, they may have willingness to have a good relationship. We did not agree on the meeting and the kind of agreement by the pressure of the U.S. We did not. Just like us, North Korea, I think may have decided on its own. So I think that the most important thing is we need to see ourselves as a kind of a leader of the issues on this peninsula. Instead of consulting with other powers. We may need to listen to their opinions, but we have to decide ourselves, and we have to consider North Korea decide on their own. This kind of attitude, I think, can make some kind of a combination of two Koreas and deepen the cooperation.
President Park had a packed schedule for her 3-day visit to China under the goal of gaining influence in Northeast Asian dynamics. First, the president had a summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping right after her arrival in Beijing. In the 6th summit between Seoul and Beijing, the two leaders discussed a variety of issues, including the bilateral ties, North Korean issues, as well as peace and security in the Northeast Asian region. President Park also had a meeting with China's Premier Li Keqiang and discussed further economic cooperation between the two countries, including the Korea-China FTA. Participating in the Korea-China Business Forum with the largest ever economic delegation of 156 people, President Park discussed the expected impact of the Korea-China FTA as well as issues surrounding the AIIB. Secondly, President Park Geun-hye participated in a ceremony that celebrates the 70th anniversary of China's victory over Japan, where Korea was the only U.S. ally present. Russian President Vladimir Putin also attended the military parade and had a discussion on Korea-Russia relations as well as the Korean Peninsula with President Park. Lastly, the president attended the reopening ceremony of the Provisional Government Building of Korea in Shanghai. The Provisional Government Building is a symbol of Korea's efforts for the restoration of its sovereignty. President Park Geun-hye paid her respects and encouraged the descendants of independence activists.
제 개관식은 우리 독립항쟁 유적의 역사적 의미와 가치를 한중 양국이 함께 공유하고 있다는 것을 보여주고 있습니다.
President Park's visit to China coincided with the beginning of the second half of her term. Hopefully, it signals the beginning of Korean leadership in Northeast Asian diplomacy.
Right. Now, on that point, I think one of the other important issue was the six-party talks, suggested by President Park. Do you think that this has kind of made the favorable atmosphere or the environment to have a successful six-party talks?
I don't think so, because U.S. has openly and publicly stated that it is North Korea's decision to come back to the six-party talks. Doors for six-party talks has been opened for the past 6 years. So it's North Korea's decision, not U.S. Of course, we have been very flexible, so we are ready to talk about how we can restart or jumpstart the six-party talks. But I think this time, I think China has not changed its position yet. China has persistently demanded the early resumption of six-party talks, regardless of condition. But South Korea and the United States underscored that North Korea should have shown us the intention to give up its nuclear weapons program. Then we can come back to the six-party talks. So I think it's a little bit surprise for me to see what President Park Geun-hye said, the early resumption of six-party talks. Of course, I think there's a rationale. Because without having the progress in the nuclear front, it is not possible South Korea to make a progress or further continue to its cooperation with North Korea, definitely. So from South Korean perspective, we have to have the progress in the nuclear front in support of this inter-Korean relations. That's why she said those. So, but actually, she will come to D.C. to talk with President Obama. I think she will deliver her message about the six-party. So kind of complicated relations about six-party talks, inter-Korean relations, and our relation with China and U.S.-China. Very complicated issue. But I think so we have to wait until her visit to Washington, D.C. is completed. So, but I think she is in a better position to have a better understanding and support from China. But actually, China has not changed its policy fundamentally yet, because we have seen some signs of Chinese pressure on North Korea. I don't know whether there was really Chinese pressure upon North Korea yet. Of course, China said each concerned party should restrain itself from doing any provocative actions. That can be applied both to both Koreas and even the United States. Actually, that comes back to the THAAD issue. If the U.S. decide to bring THAAD to the Korean Peninsula, China say, oh, that's this action, provocative action against the peace and stability of the Korean Peninsula. So I think we must be very careful in analyzing, interpreting the Chinese statements. So I think that over the past couple of days, I think that we have been so much up, and also because it's a big summit, and also she was treated very highly, and then, but we must calm down and then look the result of the summit between President.
It may not be as rosy as some people might paint it.
Some challenges ahead of us, but we must be very careful, just lower our expectation. That could be more realistic approach.
I think we could tie that with we're almost out of time, but I want to put in this last question. The President Park is scheduled to go to United States to have a summit meeting. I think what happened in the China-Korea summit can be some kind of a background to further develop our diplomatic position, maybe get more commitment from the U.S. in terms of the regional security issues and also North Korea issues. What are some kind of challenges or kind of accomplishments that President Park Geun-hye should look for in the upcoming Obama meeting?
I think she would have to relay the message that U.S.-Korea alliance is by far a very critical and important alliance. And I think she has to demonstrate that to some of the critics of her visit to China, to say, no, we are, and we maintain a very strong strategic alliance with United States. And also, I think her message has to be, we're going to broaden the strategic alliance that we have with the United States. We're not just going to be military, economic, cultural, diplomatic. So she's going to talk more about broadening the alliance beyond what we had in the past. I think that's going to be a welcome sign that Korea will also be standing side by side with the United States on global issues. And I think that has to be a very clear, proactive message showing to the people in Korea, but also to the world, that South Korea is coming of its own, is going to continue to play a very important role in the region, but hope for a greater role in the world.
Okay. Same question to Professor Park.
I may be a little critical to the President's visit. This Chinese visit to China, or I think the planned U.S. visit. That means I think that our president or our people maybe feel satisfied with the good rhetorics. I think we earned many good rhetorics from President Xi. I think also we will have good rhetorics by President Obama. That we will commit ourselves to defense of South Korea, and we are ready to do everything to decolonize the North Korean bombs. But I'm a little kind of embarrassed with the little kind of practical achievement. So I think that if our president wants to test the relationship with China, she tried to build. I think she asked the U.S. to deploy its THAAD to South Korea. And let's see what kind of positions China would take on that. If China understands the necessity to deploy the China and understands that the THAAD is a very short-range missile, it cannot kill the ICBM, and accept all of the kind of facts, it's okay. But if China says no repeatedly, we just earn the rhetorics all the time. So I think that we try not to earn rhetorics, but to earn some practical achievement.
I see. Director Lee, you have a brief moment to comment on that issue.
Well, so we have to, we have to ask the United States. I think this is very important timing, especially when it comes to the new security order in East Asia. So, especially in dealing with North Korea and the Korean Peninsula, we need to cooperate each other with China and the United States together, and also, especially, we have to ask. Don't worry about the relationship between Korea and China. Korea and China is getting closer. Does not mean we do not want to undermine any alliance relationship with the United States. Instead, actually, we could be a kind of a key player in this region as a middle power in dealing with these regional security issues, which is actually U.S. and China's role, but they cannot deal with whole issues. While we are presiding the trilateral summit talk among the Korea, China, Japan, and then also we also want to build a kind of a framework of a trilateral cooperative framework among the Korea, United States, and China in dealing with the Korean Peninsula issues. That kind of a message should be given, and also we want more support from the United States. And also what we need is, the point is, the real entrustment of the United States.
I see. I see. Any
okay, just thoughts? I can say that I simply I agree with all the points you made, but actually I'd like to highlight, so actually Professor Park already mentioned, how we are going to strengthen our alliance relation with the United States with concrete action is going to be a critical question, but I don't know whether it's the right time for her to discuss that issue with President Obama during her visit. But actually the other way is, other measure she has to think about is how we are going to improve our relation with Japan. So actually U.S. has been very, very much emphasizing the improvement of relations between the Korea and Japan. Also, further down the road, maybe trilateral security cooperation. It's not military cooperation, it's broader security cooperation. How we are going to pursue that actually really would help South Korea to earn the trust and confidence of the United States in its policy. Third, actually, we have to discuss with the United States about China issue. Frankly, we have been very reluctant to talk about the China issue with U.S. officials or U.S. experts, but actually we have to talk about to find a common ground or differences among ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you for your valuable insights today.
Thank you.
Northeast Asia has become, once again, the important ground where interests of the superpowers converge or collide. As we face a fluctuating dynamics in Northeast Asia, Korea, as a middle power country, needs to exercise creative diplomacy for peace and prosperity, and perhaps even for the reunification of Korea in the near future. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.